Danes predstavljamo zbirko What's in a Name portugalske pesnice Ane Luise Amaral v prevodu Barbare Juršič. Ta zbirka, je to delo izšlo pri Beletrini v času festivala Dnevi poezije in vina. In pri Beletrini so zapisali takole: poezija Ane Luise Amaral je preplet vsakdanjika in kozmičnega, poetičnega in političnega, sočutja in ironije, čudenja in razočaranja. Je beseda in življenje. Zdaj pa se ob teh visokih besedah, ki vzbujajo precej občudovanja in radovednosti, selimo takole malo v evrovizijskem stilu na Portugalsko, v Porto. Portugal, bom dia!
Bom dia, bom dia.
Bom dia, Ana Luisa Amaral. Como está? How are you?
I am fine, thank you very much. I mean, everything is fine. I am here. Today is not very warm. I don't know how the weather is there. But
The weather?
it's a bit foggy, you know, even. I live in Lessa da Palmeira, which is a small village near Porto, so near in the north of Portugal. And it's a bit cold. It's much colder than in Lisbon, than in the south. And I live by the beach. So if I walk 5 minutes, it's a 5-minute walk to the beach, to the sea. And we are already used, you know, to here. We, the people of the north, are already used to this kind of cold weather, you know, not very warm weather yet.
I know, Ana Luisa, I know Portugal quite well. Eu sei como é que está lá. Mas aqui nós temos está calor hoje. It's very hot today. But it's even hotter because I have this beautiful book of yours.
I haven't seen my book yet.
É a primeira vez que vê o livro.
Very first time. It's beautiful, beautiful. It's a cat. Is it a cat? There.
Exatamente. É um gato. It's a cat. É um banco. Eu também tenho uma pergunta relacionada com o banco. E há um livro. Há um livro.
Que lindo livro, que lindo.
É lindo. Eu acho que é muito lindo. Muito bom desenho. Então, very good design. So, this is the first time that Ana Luisa sees her book. The name of the book, the title is What's in a Name? In zdaj mi dovolite, da preberem tele besede. Kaj je ime, čemur se reče vrtnica, enako sladko z drugim imenom bi dišalo? O que há, pois, num nome? Aquilo a que chamamos rosa, mesmo com outro nome, cheiraria igualmente bem. What's in a name? That which we call a rose, by any other name would smell as sweet. This is a popular reference to William Shakespeare, his play Romeo and Juliet. Je tudi naslov tele zbirke. And now, Ana Luisa Amaral, tell me, what's in a name?
Wow.
What's in this book?
Yes. Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I would love to be there. You know, I'm very, very, very sad about this problem of the COVID and that I can't be in presence there with you, with everyone. You know, I feel very, very honored for having a book of mine in Slovenia. And I feel very honored to be one of the honored guests, honored guests of the festival. So it's really a shame that I can't be there. Unfortunately, we can't do anything about this problem of the virus and things here of the pandemic and things here in Portugal, as you know, are not very good. What's in a name? An immensity of things. An immensity of things. So many things are in a name. First of all, we are not born with names, right? We are the ones who give names to things. And when we name things, what happens is that things become, in a way, real, for the better and for the worse. In a very, very low level, I mean, in the most basic level, let's say, let's imagine, for example, that we are in Nazi Germany, okay? To be called in Nazi Germany Samuel or Daniel, not to be called Hans or Rudolf, that mattered a lot. So there is a lot in a name, you know. I mean, this is the basic of things. This is why also in that poem that you have mentioned, precisely what's in the name, at a certain moment I write about linhagens, chãos servis, raças domadas por algumas sílabas, races tamed by a few syllables. And this is very true. We all remember, I mean, I hope you don't mind, but I think that my answer is going to be half poetical and half political. And I have to speak about politics. I can't avoid speaking about politics nowadays, especially in this moment, in this crucial moment that we are, where everything is connected truly, where the problem, for example, of global heating is connected with the way that we have lived so far with neoliberalism, with the way that people are truly, not people, I'm sorry, that some people are trying to tame us. So in a way, names are a form of taming people. Names are a way of taming things, of taming the world. But they are also the only way that we humans, to refer to each other, to um, um, to build bridges of understanding among each other. So in fact, it's very interesting, because that quote that you have just mentioned from Romeo and Juliet, what's in a name, it comes in the sequence of when Juliet says, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? The problem is not that he is Romeo. The problem is that, just like a Samuel being Daniel or Samuel means that he is Jewish, right? Being Romeo means that he belongs to the family of the enemy. So when she says this, right, Romeo, wherefore, why should you ever be called Romeo? Why can't you be called by some other name? And then she asks this beautiful philosophical question, and we have no way of knowing if a rose would smell differently if it were called, let's say, table, for example.
Yes,
We have
something
no
else.
way to answer this, because the fact is that we have already tamed that rose in terms of language. We have already attributed a word to the rose. And the beautiful thing, too, is that after Juliet answers this to Romeo, or says this to Romeo, at a certain point, Romeo tells her, call me love only.
É
But,
bonito, pois é.
but to say, call me love is also a way of calling, is also a way of naming, So it is a bit tricky, to give words, to give names to things and to people on the one hand. Then on the other hand, we need it's the only form that we humans have to communicate with each other is through names, is through language. So language has these two sides. I hope I have answered your question.
Of course. And how about your name, Ana Luisa Amaral? Is there a story behind? How did
Yes,
you
there
get your
is.
name? If you are talking
There
about
is
the names
it's a
in
very
language sense.
yeah, it's the very first
Por que então Ana Maria, Ana Luisa Amaral? Por quê?
Amaral is the name of my father. I mean, my
Portuguese name, right?
yes, Amaral. It is Amaral. It's a Portuguese name. It's more a Portuguese name in the islands. Funnily enough, here in Portugal, my family's name is Barata do Amaral, from my father. My full name is Ana Luisa Ribeiro Barata do Amaral. So it's a long name. We have
É
these long
ótimo.
names, as you
É
know. We
fascinante o nome,
Portuguese,
sim.
we have these long names. So Barata do Amaral is the name of my father, and the story behind my first name, my Ana Luisa, is a very interesting story, actually. No one had ever asked me this. It's the first time.
Tudo sempre acontece pela primeira vez, não
É
é? Everything
maravilhoso,
happens for the first time.
maravilhoso. I'm sorry, now it's getting a little warm,
It's getting warm, okay.
When I was born, my grandmother, so my father's mother, was called Maria Luisa. And my mother hated her. And I mean, they hated each other, they didn't like each other. I shouldn't say hate, but they did not like each other, never. until the day that my grandmother died. That typical relationship, between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Very typical, very stereotypical, let's say. And so my grandmother was called Maria Luisa, and they wanted to put me that name, Maria Luisa. I am from the generation of everyone being named Maria.
Maria, em Portugal,
Mary,
todas as
em
mulheres,
Portugal.
pois é.
Toda a gente na minha geração se chamava Maria. Eu
Eu
era a
sei.
única Ana. My mother said, never. Over my dead body, she's not going to have the name of your mother, she said. My father said, but at least a part of my mother's name. And then my mother knew, he was a comedian, a Portuguese comedian, very well known, Raul Solnado. So the third wife or second wife of this Portuguese, very well-known Portuguese comedian, had come to Sintra with her family as a refugee. As you know, Sintra, it's a beautiful spot near Lisbon, beautiful. And it was the place where, well, as you know, Lisbon was crucial during the Second World War, and Sintra was a place Sintra had been full of spies during the war. German spies from the Allies, so everyone was in Sintra and was using Sintra as a place, both of espionage and for the refugees as well. And she had come with her family as a refugee because they were from Denmark. And her name was Ana Luisa.
Ah,
And
então.
my mother knew her and she loved that name. So she wanted to call me Ana Luisa with double N, Anna with double N. But Portugal in those days was until 1974, as you know, a dictatorship. And together with the political dictatorship, there was also this issue of the mores, the morals and the customs and the nationalism and all of that, all of those things. So to be using a foreign name, because Anna with a double N would be foreign, was forbidden.
Was forbidden, it was impossible, yes, I know.
Anna with only one N. So that was a Portuguese name, Ana Luisa. But the funny part is that I was always number one in every school I went through. Because I was A instead of Maria.
And A, yes. Ana and Amaral.
Which can be good, but it can be bad as well, because you are always the one that the teacher calls, for the first time, if there is someone to go to the blackboard. So you can't do anything because you are in the front desk, right there in front of the teacher, They put you in the very front desk. But I love my name. I like my name very, very much.
That's
I think
great.
it's a very unusual name because it mixes two very simple names. Luisa is a very simple name. Ana is a very simple name. And it mixes them because Maria Luisa is, as you know, well known. Ana Maria, very well known in Portugal. Ana Luisa is not.
It's not. And now I would like to ask you something else. You were talking about the Denmark girl, about somebody who came from abroad. And I found very interesting, because it bothers me a lot as well, I found a very interesting verse in your poem Lugares Comuns. E escreveu, you wrote, e pensei que afinal não interessa Londres, o nós, que em toda parte as mesmas coisas são, em inglês, and I thought it doesn't matter if it's London or us, that everywhere you find the same.
Yes.
So I know that poetry should be universal, but I personally, I'm very much interested in something specific. What's specifically Portuguese in your poetry? Is there anything that you could define as Portuguese, como mesmo português?
Mesmo português. Well, first of all, the language, naturally, right?
Sorry, what did you say? I didn't hear you
First
well.
of all, the language. I mean, even though
The language, of course.
Of course. And secondly, for example, I have a poem titled. I have a book, titled Escuro, which dialogues openly with Fernando Pessoa's Mensagem. In my very first book, Minha Senhora de Quê? Minha Senhora de Quê?
Minha Senhora de Quê, sim.
De Quê has to do with medieval tradition, and with the way that the troubadours would address the lady, the woman. and they would say minha senhora, right? Minha senhora. Camões has this, in his sonnets. Só porque vos vi, minha senhora. He has a sonnet that ends like this. Actually, in those days, in the 12th century, I'm talking now much, from a time much before Camões, because Camões is 16th century, as you know. So 12th century, they would call minha senhor. Senhora was not, was how do you say, invariable, right? I don't know how you call it. I'm very bad at grammar. I'm terrible with grammar. I don't know how it does not have gender. Senhor, senhor, it did not have gender. So it was only minha senhor. Então, in that book, Minha Senhora de Quê, for example, I have a poem that is called Qualquer Coisa de Intermédio, something in between, and that starts with Se eu fosse o outro, o do chapéu macio e do bigode eternizado em cúbico arremedo, angústia dividida em tantas partes e óculos redondos, podia-te contar, eu, guardador de sonhos. Se eu fosse o outro, o delicado e bêbado gênio de nós todos, o que amou estranho e sabia dizer coisas enormes, numa pequena língua e fraco império. Se eu fosse aquele inteiro ditado de exageros e exclusões, falava-te de tudo em ingleses versos. E mesmo se não foi ele quem disse, e podia até ser, que eram amigos, e o século a nascer arrepiava, como já não o fim, há razão nessa história do pilar e do tédio a escorrer de um para o outro. And this poem, sorry, it's that I know practically all my poems by heart, it's a horror. Okay.
No, it was magical. It was magic.
Oh my
Listening
God.
to you reciting your poem in Portuguese, for me, it's magical. Thank you.
And this poem, as you can see, it's about Fernando Pessoa. Se eu fosse o do chapéu macio e do bigode, eternizado em cúbico arremedo, Almada Negreiros and his painting, angústia dividida into anguish, split in so many parts, and round glasses. So this is Fernando Pessoa. Yes, and I think that there are, also, especially in some books, this idea that for example, I have lots of seagulls in my poetry. The sea is a very important topic in my poetry. As you know, we are a country.
Of course, it's very Portuguese. The sea, the ocean, of course.
The sea, the seagulls, so that 3 S's, I only thought about this now. The seagulls, so that at the same time, because I always loved Anglo-American poetry. If you ask me, for example, what were your influences? I don't like to speak about influences because I have no idea. I leave that for the critics, But if you ask me, what are your favorite authors, right? Yes, in Portugal, I would start with Camões. I would go to, for example, again, medieval poetry, the 14th century, and the most beautiful poem by João Ruiz de Castelo Branco about love, the most beautiful love poem that I think my language has. Senhora, partem tão tristes meus olhos por vós, meu bem. Which is a beautiful poem,
Pois é. Mas agora que falou, now you were speaking about the three S words in Portuguese, Sigel,
I just thought about it, okay.
But
yeah.
I have a feeling, maybe this is a little bit naive, that the word that always appears in every Portuguese poet's work is o coração.
Coração.
The heart. Aparece também na sua poesia, aqui neste livro.
Muito.
Sim. Há ocorrências.
But in an ironic way, mostly.
Maybe, yes. It's not really the direct sense.
There was once a critic who said that the word that mostly appears in my poetry, that there are 2 words. They have done this work because I have several complete poems, anthologies, and one is tempo, time, and the other one is avesso, which is a very
avesso. Eu vi avesso, sim, que significa
exactly. A very, I don't know how you say that in Sloven, but for example, in English is very, very, very awkward, and it's very complicated to translate because it's not exactly upside down. It's something else, as you know, bolso do avesso, the avesso of a pocket, for example, right? It's like it's not exactly reverse because we also have reverso. So it's a complicated notion, you know, estar do avesso.
Yeah, I think it's, of course, everybody says translating the poetry is complicated. And I guess that Barbara Juršić, your translator, did a very nice job. I liked the poems also in Slovene. It's very beautiful. Pode ficar tranquila. You can be calm about that. And now another question. You were talking already about the poetry, of course, and you were talking about the politics. I would like to know, you are a very, let's say, intellectual woman. You are related somehow to the studies, to the faculty, to the literature. But in general, how does a Portuguese woman live? Como é a vida de uma mulher portuguesa?
But you mean daily life?
Sim, no sentido de vida cotidiana, daily life,
Well,
a vida, o que é que está na cabeça dela, what's in her head?
It's a very interesting question. Again, you know, I mean, no one ever asked me that. I think it's a very wonderful question. Yes. Well, I would start by saying, okay, I'm 65 years old. So I was born, as I said before, in 1956. And I went through Salazar's dictatorship, which was fascist, you know, because he was a friend of Hitler and
Franco, General Franco.
of Franco, etc. So he was fascist, and I mean, so I was born, for example, in a time when my generation, I belong to that generation that where everything was. I don't know how to say this I'm going to say it in Portuguese, okay?
Okay.
Ideology, I'm going to say it in English. Ideology permeated everything. What I want to say is that when I had arithmetics, for example, when I was little, when I was 7 years old, arithmetics, you know, and those kind of problems that you have, you know, like there is a tank and that tank has to be filled with water, and the tank is 5 meters by 3 meters. What is the area of the tank? Okay, something like that. But I remember, for example, problems like Professor Oliveira Salazar, that was, you know, the dictator, received a flag from the children of the nationalist youth. And the flag was 6 meters by 2 meters. What was the full area of the flag that Professor Oliveira Salazar received? You know, so ideology was permeated everything, and this idea that the woman's place was in the house. I mean, well, that was everywhere.
Was in the house, yes.
But in Portugal, it continued through the 1960s, you know, when, as you know, in Western Europe, things started to change precisely by the end of the 1960s, right? 1960s, in France, for example, but things stayed the same in Portugal. There was very much, because we're a Catholic country, as you know, and there was this accord with the Holy See. So the connection between the religion and the state was there in a very, very, very present way. And as I said, you know, this idea that women to the private and to the domestic place and space, and men to the public, the political space. And I remember, for example, my textbooks from where I learned the language in Portuguese, you know, my textbooks at school, they had stories like Mariazinha, so
Mariazinha, little Mary, yes.
Yeah, little Mary has a little brother called Joãozinho, and she cares about her little brother while her mother is cooking dinner for the father who is coming home. When
From
the father
work.
gets home, from work, exactly. When the father gets home very tired from having worked, all day to feed his family, Mariazinha goes to his father and she takes his shoes and gives him the slippers. And Mariazinha's mother gives him a kiss and sets the table together with Mariazinha and the father. So this idea that these are women's chores and they should do this, and everything was this. There was also an expression I remember, parece mal. Parece mal. That means it's very complicated to translate it is into English. I don't know if you understand this. For example, uma menina não chega à casa depois das 7 da tarde.
Sim.
Parece mal.
Parece mal, se tudo
Parece mal.
everything seems bad
It seems
for the
bad.
neighbors, for everybody.
Exactly. So it
in the
was like
eyes of what is allowed and what is not allowed. Yes,
neighbors can look, So
the neighbors,
the appearance,
the appearance was that matters.
appearance was very important. My mother, I am from Lisbon. I am from the south, which was already by those days, in those days, more open than the north. This has to do also with religious issues. This has to do with the fact that in the north people were more religious. Catholicism was much more ingrained in the minds of people. People had more children, mostly. They were poorer in the north of the country.
Of course, and always a little bit marginal, no? A little bit more than the south.
Exactly. And I was from Lisbon. I was living in Lisbon, and I came with the age of 9, and it was for me very, very, very difficult. It was horrible. Actually, I'm an only child. It was horrible, and I hated to come to
I'm the only child as well, so I understand you perfectly. A filha única, sim. É um peso mesmo, às vezes, não é?
Então não é um peso mesmo, caramba. Então, eu quando vim, when I came to the north, I didn't like coming to the north at all. And then finally at the age of 16 or so, I made peace with the north, and now I love to live here, I wouldn't live in Lisbon. I love Lisbon. I think it's a beautiful city, but I wouldn't live there. It's too, too much noise, too many people. I like being here in this small corner, etc. But let me just finish what I was saying about the north and the south, and the way that my mother, when I came at the age of 9, my mother had a red coat. I'll never forget this. She had a beautiful red coat, and she would go out with that red coat, and that men would come after her, whistling in the cars, things like that. And there was a neighbor who would say to my mother, "It's a shame you don't do this,
Parece mal. Parece mal.
Parece mal uma senhora sair de casaco." Now, this was the coat that my mother used in Lisbon, no one would notice in Lisbon, but here in the north. So yes, things changed drastically with the 25th of April. Drastically, Yes. But drastically.
I know.
I don't mean they changed drastically. For example, our revolution, as you know, was a very beautiful revolution. There was no blood.
Pacífica, a Revolução Pacífica.
Uma revolução pacífica e uma revolução que de facto tentou a democracia. Não houve ali momento, there was a moment in our history very complicated, where the Communist Party tried to get hold of the situation, but they couldn't. They weren't able to do this, because otherwise it would be, in my view, a replacement of dictatorships, and that's not what you want. We had lived in fascism. We did not want to live in communism. You know what I mean? So we wanted really and true democracy, and this is, I think, what we have. And this is, and you know what I think too? I think that we that are living in democratic countries, that democracy and freedom are too precious to be forgotten. You know what we have, like a flower. We have to water them. We have to take care of them. We have to vote. I say this. I don't teach anymore, but I used to say this to my students. You have a weapon. That weapon is called a vote. A little paper that you can fold in four and put inside the box, please
Do it. Yes, do
please
it.
do it, do it. And I think that so, and in the days that are now going by, more and more, this is so important,
Ana
So
Luisa, another question. I'm really enjoying listening to you because you're a very open person. I can see that. But my question is, you writing a poetry or talking like this with us, you are exposing yourself very much. And I think this is great. But do you have sometimes a kind of a feeling of, wow, I should hide a little bit. I'm a little bit ashamed of being so exposed. You know what I'm talking? Your poetry is really telling the things about you. Do you have doubts sometimes? No? Muito bem. Muito bem. Sim.
not much, I
Being
mean,
so exposed, it's sometimes you just feel like, wow, everybody's looking at me, listening to me, wanting my ideas.
Yes, well, it depends. I mean, it is true that I have a daughter. My daughter appears in my poetry.
I know it's a beautiful. Sorry, but it's a beautiful poem. It's maybe the poem that I liked most. Visitações. É assim. Tenho aqui a tradução para o esloveno. Visitações, o poema que se diz manso.
Quer que eu diga em português e lê em esloveno?
Pode ler, por favor, pode ler em português e depois eu vou ler em esloveno.
Eu acho que sei de cor. I know by heart, I think.
Então, diga.
Então, Visitações, o poema que se diz manso. De mansinho ela entrou, a minha filha. A madrugada entrava como ela, mas não tão de mansinho. Os pés descalços, de barulho menor que o do meu lápis e um riso bem maior que o dos meus versos. Sentou-se no meu colo, de mansinho. O poema invadia como ela, mas não tão mansamente, não com esta exigência tão mansinha. Como um ladrão furtivo, a minha filha roubou-me inspiração, versos quase chegados, quase meus. E mansamente aqui adormeceu, feliz pelo seu crime.
Obiskovanja oziroma domnevno lahna pesem. Na lahno je vstopila moja hčerka. Jutro je vstopalo z njo, a ne tako na lahko, bosih nog, ki so povzročile manj hrupa kot moj svinčnik, a precej več smeha od mojih pesmi. Zlezla mi je v naročje, na lahno. Tudi pesem je, kot ona, udirala, a ne tako na lahno, ne s to lahno vztrajnostjo. Kot potuhnjen tat mi je hčerka ukradla navdih, skoraj zapisane verze, ki so bili že skoraj moji. In na lahno je tu zaspala, srečna, s pričo svojega zločina. Parabéns.
Muito obrigada.
Sorry, I really read the poem with a lot of feeling for your poetry.
Okay.
Yes, so you were telling us about your daughter, that you have a daughter, you're exposed, but...
Yes, I would just like to add, before that and about the other question, that things have changed drastically for women after after 1974. So it's no longer. I mean, women nowadays. I mean, in those days, truly, this issue of separate spheres was very, very, very much. I mean, it was truly an issue, whereas nowadays, things are much more blended and women are much more, it is much more democratic, even though I think feminism continues to be important and continues to be needed. Okay, so but about my daughter and about my poetry, I'll try. The problem is that I take a long time answering to your questions. They're very interesting, and it depends. No, there's lots of aspects of my life that no one knows by reading my poetry. I think that my poetry shows what I want my poetry to show. Even though when I write a poem, I never think, now I am going to write about this, now I'm going to write about that. And truly, the poem, how how should I say this? I have a poem titled Psychoanalysis of Writing, Psicanálise da Escrita, that starts with todo o poema é sobre aquele que sobre ele escreve. So, what I want to say, I'm going to say this, it's going to take me 1 minute, okay? It's a parenthesis, 1 minute. I believe that poetry is, like all art, communication, always. But that is in its second moment, because in the first moment, poetry, like all art, is something that you do in solitude and with yourself, within yourself. You know what I mean? It's myself talking to myself, speaking to myself, and I don't take into account the reader. I don't take into account anyone. So I write because I need to write. I write because I have this urgency of writing, this need of writing. Okay, so in that first moment, you don't think about communicating anything. You communicate with yourself only. But then, after the poem is written, after the symphony is composed, after the painting is painted, then you need to share it with the others. I do believe in this, and this is what being human is as well. Because and poetry não serve para nada. It's totally useless. But precisely because of that, it's absolutely, absolutely necessary. It's absolutely crucial because it's symbolic, it belongs to the realm of the symbolic, and we humans need the symbolic.
It's very beautiful what you say, Ana
I
Luísa.
think, nós precisamos do simbólico para viver. It's not enough. You take a human being, put him or her inside the cell, feed him, give him food, and put him there for 2 or 3 or 4 years, and that person becomes, practically, probably non-human. You know what I mean? So you need this is what language does as well, and right now I wish I could be there hugging you. I wish I could be there touching you, because we also need that. And I think that this pandemic I think that the violence of this pandemic has to do with that as well, the severing of the ties that made us touch each other, hug each other. You can't, even this thing of hugging with this mask on, and you have to hug like this. You can't kiss a person on the cheek. It's horrible. So anyway,
Yeah, this is quite difficult for you Portuguese. This is difficult for you. I say that this must be very difficult for you, Portuguese people, that you're used to do dois beijinhos, 2 kisses, always.
Yes, always.
You just say hello with 2 kisses, dois beijinhos, sim.
It's very, and it is more difficult for the Brazilian.
For example, Brazilian as well.
Much more difficult than for us, But anyway, yes, my daughter is there in my post. So I do have a daughter, one daughter only, Rita, that's her name. I do have a dog, and I have a poem about my dog. I do have a cat. But then the most private issues, of my life, they are ciphered. For example, I have a book titled The Art of Being a Tiger, A Arte de Ser Tigre, The Art of Being a Tiger, which is, that book, maybe the most confessional book I have. But at the same time, it is the most ciphered book that I have. So no one can understand anything, from about my life. It's a love book. It's a sequence of love poems. I don't think that anyone can understand anything about my life. So I believe that poetry is contiguous to life, to life, but it's always in a way deflected from life. It belongs to the world, of course. It belongs to its time, of course, poetry, I mean. But at the same time, it has this element of what Fernando Pessoa called fingimento, faking, which is a totally different thing from lying, So when you fake, to fake is not doesn't mean is not to lie. A child fakes, for example, a child when a child gets 2 pens, okay, and puts 2 pens in her, puts a pen on her head and takes a box of a box of paper and puts inside and gets inside that box of paper and says, I am in a spaceship. That child is faking, is pretending, okay? So I think that poetry, that idea of Fernando Pessoa, o poeta é fingidor, finge tão
O poeta é o fingidor, pesnik je.
But este fingimento means to pretend, okay? Pretends. And this is not lying. So when this child gets in that box, inside that box, and says, I am in a spaceship, that child is pretending to be an astronaut. But that child is not lying because he or she believes that he or she is in a spaceship. And I think the same thing happens with poetry. And so poetry always belonged to the world, was always a part of the world, was always connected to the world. At the same time, it is always a bit desfasada do mundo, descolada do mundo, mas não, ou deslocada do mundo, vou dizer em português. A poesia pode estar deslocada do mundo, mas não descolada do mundo, mas não deslocada dele. Então,
poesia e povezana s svetom, seveda. Ana Luísa mencionou, you mentioned Fernando Pessoa, que era fingidor, he was pretending, and I saw that in your literature, there are some poems that make some reference to Fernando Pessoa as well. When you are mentioning Lydia in your verse, I liked it very much. And I have a question related with this, Lydia. You wrote, isso é para terminarmos, and this is just concluding already. Obrigada por me lembrares, amiga, que não é sossegadamente que a vida passa. Thank you for reminding me, my friend, that life does not pass quietly. Então, concorda comigo se eu disser que que a vida não é o livro de sossego, mas é o livro de desassossego?
Sempre.
So you agree with me if I say that the book of disquiet, the life is the book of disquiet and not the book of being quiet?
Oh, absolutely. Life is that, and it's all, and poetry is that too, it's always disquiet and it's always poetry dishevels, A poesia desarruma.
Desarruma, torej poezija razmeče, tako je.
Desarruma. A poesia transtorna e transforma.
Torej postavi na glavo, spremeni.
It transforms as well. I think it has this power of transforming. I'll never forget one day, I have a small, very, very short poem that says, de pé sobre o abismo e não morri. It starts like this. De pé, standing over the abyss, and I didn't die. It starts like this, and it ends, de pé sobre o abismo e não morri, amei. So standing, I stood over the abyss and I didn't die. I loved. Okay, it's a very short, it's like 6 or 7 lines. And one day a colleague of mine came to me and she said, you have a poem that saved my life. And this is extra, and it was precisely that poem. And it was extraordinary. And I have poems which I have read, which have really saved my life, really saved my life.
So it was very useful, your poetry, in that sense.
Because, yes,
because before you said poetry something not really useful, but I think it is.
It is for this, exactly. And by the way, Carta a Lídia sobre a poesia que se achou perdida, dialogues, as you know, with Fernando Pessoa, a vida passa sossegadamente, Lídia, vem sentar-te comigo, Lídia, à beira do rio. By the heteronym of Pessoa, mas também a Lídia Jorge, minha amiga.
Eu sou tradutora de Lídia Jorge, eu não sei se sabe, eu fiz a tradução do Vale do Paixão, pois é, e também da coleção dos contos, O Marido e Outros Contos, sim, eu sou tradutora para o esloveno dela. Então manda saudações, manda cumprimentos.
Eu mando. Esta Lídia é a minha amiga Lídia.
Então, é incrível, então, o nosso encontro aqui, um encontro online, eletrônico, mas tem que ver uma profundeza com a amiga mútua.
Uma amiga comum. Então, esta Lídia, we were truly in a restaurant, you know, and it was a little chilly, and I said to her, you know, Lídia, eu acho que a perdi. And I meant inspiração, the muse, I lost it. E ela disse, pai, não penses nisso, não digas isso, miúda, não digas isso. Olha, miúda, tu sente, miúda, tu escuta o mundo, escuta. And the following day, I wrote her this poem. It doesn't say Lídia Jorge. You know, some people say, who is this Lídia? This Lídia, I'm telling you.
Lídia Jorge.
It doesn't matter, it could be anyone.
Sim, mas você não podia ser anyone. You can't be anyone. You are Ana Luísa Amaral, and you have your book translated to Slovene. Thank you so very much. It was very interesting. It was very interesting, really, and congratulations again for your poetry. Thank you for having this poetry.
No, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. It was a lovely conversation. Lovely.
It really was because of you, Ana Luísa Amaral. Thank you again. E muitos beijinhos para Portugal. And a lot
Muito
of kisses to Portugal.
E muitos beijinhos para Ljubljana, para a Eslovénia.
Obrigada. Até uma próxima.
Até à próxima.
Adeus.